Hello again. So welcome to my channel, and this is going to be one of your favorite videos in my moon sign panels. And this time we are uh, discussing the mysterious Scorpio moon. And I am a Scorpio moon myself, so that session is especially intimate and intense and special for me. And here again, I'm with an astrologer, Frida, who also has a Scorpio moon. And I also have participants how they will join hopefully. So Nuria, who also has Scorpio moon, and after we talk, the participants again will share their reflections. Okay, so probably you know Frida from my psychology and astrology video, but let her introduce herself one more time, and then we will start with Scorpio moon.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Frida. I'm based in Sweden right now, and I'm an astrologer who's been studying and practicing astrology since 2011. I'm a modern astrologer, and yeah, I run a small astrological practice, part-time practice, because my other job is as a psychological researcher. I work as a PhD student at the university, and yeah, I have a background in clinical psychology. So I'm trying to basically combine astrology with psychology and show how we can integrate these subjects.
Okay, perfect. So, hello, Steve. Welcome. Nice to see you. And it's no surprise that you are into psychology with your Scorpio moon. And I think this is one of the aspects that we will talk about Scorpio moon psychology insight. So, I'm again so excited for this video because every time I check videos on moon signs on YouTube, I see that Scorpio moon video by far has the most views. So, people are so like curious about Scorpio moon and they want to know the like inner world of Scorpio moon because maybe we don't reveal ourselves like at first. So, and in my Libra session, Libra moon people were kind of bitter against Scorpio moon because we in relationships we kind of did not reveal ourselves at first. So we will talk about that as well. Okay. So I have my keywords, I have my questions, but first I will ask a basic question. When you think of Scorpio moon or when you see someone with a Scorpio moon in the chart, what is the first word that you think about?
Should I answer or should we let the other participants in? Or
We first talk, so
okay,
then they.
okay, sorry. Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is I tend to think about the word intense.
Yes.
Intense emotional life, intense relationship to the mother archetype, intense intensity in a variety of aspects. And here I want to mention something that I find quite important, and it is that we need to understand or remember that the moon, from my perspective, is very subjective, right? It's a that's why I am very careful also. When I approach these subjects with a client, because I don't want to say like, oh, tell me about the problems you've had with your mom. I don't
Yeah.
want to phrase it that way, even though a lot of people born with a Scorpio moon, we have had intense relationships to our mothers or mother archetypes. So I rather phrase it from the perspective of intensity. Okay, I'm picking up that the relationship to your mother could have been intense in some way. Would you like to elaborate on that? And there we can pick it apart because I think that's also one way that we can approach a person with a Scorpio moon because I know from my own experience with myself, I don't like when somebody steps right into my private sphere and my private life. I want to maintain a sense of control, so that's also something that is important to respect from my point of view. Yeah.
Exactly, that intensity will be there. And now I remember my very first session with my therapist. So the first time I went to therapy, it was like 10 years ago. So I was kind of going through a difficult time. And then in like I think Scorpio moons are also kind of famous in therapy for not opening up immediately. So in the first two sessions, I was so quiet. I only answered when my therapist asked me something. And then she made that analogy. So she told me that I'm like a pool, and there's a bright pool, blue pool. And below the pool, there is another pool, which is locked. and all the pain, all the stuff are buried there. So on the surface, it's bright and like joyful, but below there is the intensity. Okay, so that intensity is also related to the need for privacy, because when we think that, like, if we kind of share, we will our privacy will be invaded. So that can also be related to the fear of loss of privacy. So then my question here is that how can we kind of get to open up that space, get to open up that safe space to share?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's important to recognize the need of privacy and tread lightly. And when you mentioned the pool in a pool in a pool analogy, then I think about the phrase, which I find very symbolic for Scorpio moon, still waters run deep, right?
Yeah.
Because it can look like there can be a lake or something, and it can be totally blank, right? It can be so calm on the surface, but underneath, like there's a lot going on beneath the surface. And like I say, tread lightly. And I think actually that it's a good idea also to understand the whole symbolism of perhaps Pluto. And, if we look at modern astrology, the ruling planet is Pluto, right? We look at this concept of being reborn or sort of like transform and these kind of things, or looking at the underworld and having understanding for that. And I think a lot of astrologers with Scorpio moon, or therapists who also have Scorpio moon, they tend to be quite good at these things because they know how extremely private it can be to open up about feelings. And I would also say that a therapist or an astrologer or just a human being with a Scorpio moon, we might struggle sometimes to open up. But when we listen to a person, or when we sort of hold space for somebody's story, we can hear a lot of deep things, right? We can hear a lot of traumatic things and stories, and we can also like not be too, how can I say, yeah, too impacted is not the right word, but you know what I mean. We can kind of hold that space because we know the depths of our own emotional life. Yeah.
Exactly. So there is so much self-reflection. So we know that intensity in ourselves. So that when we open up, or when we establish relationships, we also kind of empathize with the other person. But at the same time, Scorpio moons are kind of famous for being the poker face. So I also want to talk about that empathy. So I believe that, like, it's not like I'm praising us and myself. So our empathy and spider senses are quite high. So that empathy can be too much sometimes. So in friendships, in relationships. So then how we can also be blamed for being like indifferent, aloof, because like our face does not show our emotions most of the time. So then when it comes to empathy, so how can we kind of have the healthier boundaries or expression of empathy? What do you think?
Does anybody else, or should I continue?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can,
yeah,
and we
yeah.
will
Yeah.
reflect at the end.
Because one thing that I notice with myself, and I say to my clients, is that there's a fine line here between going into sort of like the Plutonian spiral, I call it, when we want to dig deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into things. And I would say that empathy is one thing, right? We can show empathy, but I am very cautious about the black and white kind of how do you call it, mentality or way of operating, because it's easy with the Scorpio moon to fall into this pattern of black and white. Either I don't care at all, you're dead to me, or I care to the extent that I want to sort of like creep under your skin and control you. There are extremes with this kind of moon placement from my point of view. And from a personal point of view, I can say that, I mean, we are so receptive, many of us, right? We are really receptive. We have sort of those tentacles out under the surface. We take in so much from under the surface that I've had to sort of like train myself to yeah, let's say if I go somewhere, I go to my kids' martial arts training, for example, and I can sit there and I can look one way, and somebody enters the training space, and in the back of my head, and I feel like, oh, this person has a problem with addiction. From that position, I can sense these kind of things, and it's taken me so much training, first of all, to understand that, wait, is this my business? Yes or no? Weigh those pros and cons. And second of all, allow myself to sort of not get overwhelmed by these things, because we do take so much in, and really kind of choose, when am I to sort of act, step in, do something, say something, burst some bubbles, and when am I perhaps better off keeping things quiet and, just protecting my peace? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I totally resonate with that. So, yeah, we kind of have, I believe, sixth sense that goes beyond our body. So I also have kind of an example from myself. Like when I was working at a university, I was like proctoring exams during the exams. So students were kind of doing their thing, and sometimes some of them were trying to cheat. And rather than like seeing it or hearing it, I just felt that in my body with energy. So there is something wrong over there. This person is trying to do something. So, and I'm just looking at somewhere else. I just feel it. So, yeah, I know it can also be good for our job, for example, if it involves detection, something like that. But personally, we also need to have boundaries. So, does that really concern me, as you said? Okay. You also mentioned black or white, which is what I was going to mention too. So everything is kind of connected. So then this black or white thing, especially at the younger ages, actually can make us lose lots of friendships, relationships, or good opportunities because we think that it is 100% not for us. So like how can we accept that there is gray in the world?
Yeah. Well, I think that the way I work with this is by recognizing more of my own values. And that's basically my idea of doing this, and try to find the gray path, and not fall into this black and white. Because, for example, with friendships, we can take that as an example, or partnerships, or if you live together with someone, moon living with someone. I mean, like I say, we kind of have to remind ourselves of what is healthy for me. That's why I come back to all the time. What is healthy? I need to somehow sometimes express this need of researching things, or going to the very depth of things, go to the bottom, look this up until absurdity. But does it serve me, for example, in my relationship to my husband? No, that does not really serve me, or does it serve me when it comes to friendships, that I have this black and white mentality of, you're either my friend or you're not my friend at all? No, it's about, that's why I say, establishing the values and becoming more conscious, I think, about how we act, how we feel. And that can be tricky sometimes with the Scorpio moon, because there can also be this little bit of how do you say, not like a phobia, but something similar almost towards our own emotions, right? It's like we can start feeling as if, oh, there's something going on. Where is it? Is it outside of me? No. Is it inside of me? There's something wrong now. I just got to figure out what it is. And we start spiraling. And that's when I have, made myself become more aware of these processes, and told myself, stop. Maybe there's nothing wrong with me right now. Maybe there's nothing I need to research to the very depth. Maybe I'm just tired, like an alternative explanation to things. You know what I mean? Because we do get overwhelmed very easily. We take in so much. So maybe recognizing that this could be an expression of, I'm tired, or I need some alone time, or I need, you know what I mean? We're too quick sometimes to act upon also our impulses, I think.
Yeah, exactly, because it's also the moon sign that is ruled by Mars, impulsivity. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Pluto, depth. So we have two layers actually, impulsivity and depth. So I also get that from myself kind of because like when I have this idea of doing this series, I did it immediately. So I'm kind of impulsive when it comes to doing something that I'm passionate about, really passionate about. So that can also be one thing. And you also mentioned alone time to charge, which we also feel that it is something like a need, like a water or like food for us. Like we need that. You are right. And research is another important keyword, and not just for moon, for example. Like when we have even Uranus in Scorpio, Jupiter in Scorpio, Saturn in Scorpio, like Scorpio placements are kind of about research and depth and knowing what is like under everything or behind the curtains. So research will also be kind of a need, but as you said, we sometimes need to stop. We don't need to know everything, and maybe we are tired, as you said perfectly. And then research can also like guide us in our career choice. So I believe that many Scorpio moons or Scorpio moon placements are working in kind of research-related industries. So psychology, yours, astrology, mine. And then it can be, again, scientific research. It can be detectiveness. So then what other jobs do you know that Scorpion moons are really good at? So,
Like what comes to the top of my mind right now is I've also seen or met people who do kind of like financial investigative work, you know. And it's funny because I used to have like sort of like an addiction when it comes to watching detectives murder series, you know, where you have to figure out who is the villain here, the murder. But I think now when I have become a little bit older, I'm a mom, and I don't want to take in too much of that kind of those kind of series. I'm leaning more towards always watching like you know, these thrillers that are about financial corruption and somebody stole this money and this company is in, you know. I think a lot of people could also work with those kind of things, as some kind of investigative accountants or uh,
exactly.
and journalists who are
Yeah.
very digging journalists.
Exactly. So then I think there's again the need for intensity. So when we think of journalism, like research, digging deep, like and death, murder mysteries. I used to love murder mysteries as well. Like I used to watch it every night at during COVID lockdowns. That was my hobby. And yeah, we still need that intensity, even though when it is a kind of a hobby. So yeah, you were right on that. And uh, other than this, for this intensity is also kind of, I think, leading us to conspiracy theories. So suspicion, so which is a theme with Scorpio moon. So the reason why, even though it's a water sign, the reason why, moon does not do well here is suspicion. So moon does not feel secure. Moon feels under threat. So how can you explain suspicion and conspiracy within Scorpio moon?
Yeah, I think I circle back to what I mentioned earlier, like this need to uncover, the need to see the truth. What is the
Mhm,
truth? And then when you get to the point of, oh, this is the truth, then you get to the next level. But wait, is it the real truth?
mhm,
You know, you always go one more layer, and that's what's so beautiful about the sign of Scorpio and, for example, Pluto. And but like I said again, I think that when does it serve us and when does it not serve us? Like where does it become a liability for our, I don't know, well-being? And I think some conspiracy theories, I mean, we can go so deep into the rabbit hole that we forget that we are here to also eat, play, I don't know, be with our friends and family. We can go so deep into it. And that's when I say it's not functional. I circle back to psychiatry and psychology, like what is functional and what is not functional, because it's great to let out this need to uncover, but we have to be mindful because I have also found myself, you know, sometimes I let this, I love investigating stuff, and I do that as part of my job, right? I'm a researcher, I do research in psychology. But like sometimes I can also sit at home on my couch and something comes on the TV or I see something on, I don't know, Netflix, and I start Googling. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I gotta find out what is this about for real. And that's when I know that I say I'm wasting my time.
yeah,
I
yeah, I
am.
feel that.
Because
Yeah.
not it's not going to lead me to a place where I will feel satisfied. Just as, when I sit at my kids' martial art training, if somebody walks in and they have some sort of, I don't know, addiction problem or problem at home, yes, I can recognize it, but like I say, maybe I have to leave it there for now. Maybe it's not
Yeah.
my job that day. Like, so important with the awareness, I think, because it can spiral very far. I've also had clients and oh, I think something is up, and then they go, and then all of a sudden something is up. Because if you dig deep enough, you will find something, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So that will be one thing. Yeah, suspicion, conspiracy theories. Like we also need to make some reality check. So is it real actually? So that's a good point. So then I told you that Scorpio is a water sign, but Scorpio is a fixed sign, fixed water sign. So with the moon there might be some fixed mindedness, and we are famous for not easily forgetting whether a small detail, whether something big, or whether good, whether bad. Okay. So that can kind of make us, I believe, stuck at certain times, certain periods. Maybe it is the time that we were happiest, we miss those moments. Maybe it is the most painful time, or maybe someone did something really wrong to us and we cannot forgive or forget. So now, how can we evaluate this kind of being stuck to pain and grudge and revenge side of Scorpio moon, because it's also the sign that is ruled by Mars. Yeah.
Mm. I think there come back to the symbolism of Pluto, and then we can think about the mythology of, I don't know, we think about Phoenix, right? Phoenix rising from the ashes. Okay, the sort of process of death and rebirth. I tend to lean towards that because for me it's very difficult to how do you say, flex from, like, I tend to get stuck in emotions, of course, and I know that's how it is for a lot of people with Scorpio moon. We have more of a rigid way also of, yeah, we can get stuck in emotions, and we don't know sometimes how to regulate ourselves. So that's when I try to think about, okay, wait, Phoenix rising from the ashes, okay, transformation, that's a buzzword from Pluto. How can I transform this energy? And what I've found mostly is like we can work also with very creative practices, because we can, for example, I think that's why people can become great psychologists, great counselors, great astrologers, because it's about this process of resources, Pluto, right? How do I turn this into something more resourceful? How can I transform this energy? Oh, I had a traumatic experience as a child. How do I take that and I make myself stronger? How do I grow from that? And I think we have to remember that buzzword transformation, and like how to rise from the ashes. And then also train ourselves. Like if we have a child, for example, with a Scorpio moon, I would really suggest, and maybe for all fixed moon signs, that it's great to sort of somehow try to help the kid to learn how to regulate or sort of move through emotions. Because my mother has a Scorpio moon as well. So I come from a family with,
Good.
yeah, we have Scorpio moon, and well, my daughter has a Sagittarius moon. So she skipped this generational blessing, I want to call it. But anyway, my mother, I remember when I was just, I think I was 5 or 6 years old, and there were some kids at the street where we lived who didn't invite me to a party. And then my mother told me, "Oh, they didn't invite you. You know what? You are never going to invite them." She set that bar right there. And I remember the kids, I have this so clear in my mind still, and emotionally as well. The kids came to my, what do you call, my entrance of my house, and they stood there by the, yeah, by the, I don't know, the fence, you call it. And I remember them like begging me to come play and stuff. And I was like, no, I'm not coming. No, And that's when it starts. Like, it's fine, it's good, it's okay, it's natural. But I think now when I look back at it, I think, oh, but forgiveness is very important. Very important. Very important to let go. Very important also if something happens between me and my partner or a friend or a colleague, whatever, that I can just be like, you know what? You didn't want to destroy me. I understand that. It felt as if you wanted to destroy me. It's okay. But I can make sense of it and see, I know that you didn't mean that, what you did. I have understanding for that because we get so stuck, right, in our own interpretation. Everyone's against me. They want to, that's a conspiracy again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's a conspiracy. So, but again, as we earlier discussed earlier, it comes from the need to feel secure. So that like we need to know that people are not against us. Like we kind of actually want to be open and sweet and like trust and let go. And because if people like could crawl into our skin, so they will see that living all these thoughts, overthinking, suspicion, doubts, conspiracies is something actually quite difficult to do. So it's quite something heavy to do, but we actually need to trust. So that's the another keyword for Scorpio moon, of course.
But can I also say, because one thing that I have also come to term with, and I don't know if this also relates to the question of the gray zone and the gray path, because I have also had to work a lot with acceptance. Acceptance, when it comes to the fact that, okay, I have a partner, I have friends, I have children, I have close relationships. We talk about moon, for example. Uh, and in like some kind of idealized scenario, I would be like almost merged together with them. You know what I mean? Like we have no secrets among us. I know everything about you. You know everything about me. I can read you, to the core. It's just like, I know there's nothing that is hidden between me and somebody else. That's like the ideal scenario. And that relates to, like you said, the moon wants to feel safe, right? That's why it's exalted in Taurus and why it doesn't feel safe in Scorpio. But that's why I say acceptance and kind of like go back to self-compassion, self-nurturing, being our own mother archetype on an internal plane and be like, wait, I'm seeing this now. I'm seeing that I really want to crawl under the skin of this other person here, that I want to find out, are there any secrets? Are we true to each other? Is everything good between us? But then take a step back, like pause there and be like, wait, this is a sign of me not feeling completely safe. And logically work with Mercury also, maybe see, are there any reasons to that? Or is it just the fact that I need to self-soothe, self-care, self-nurture? Because that's how I think we can evolve as well, instead of getting stuck in like dependency on others or not daring to trust others or being very black and white or even pushing people away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, pushing people away. Another theme might be another theme. So, yeah, as we said, like all keywords actually relate to each other. So they kind of step by step lead each other. And we also said forgiveness, transformation, transforming feelings. And so dealing with that feeling or impulse to take revenge or hold grudge. And I think one of the biggest transformation in life is death. So when we talk about Scorpio moon, I think we should also talk about death. So what is our obsession with death, as people tell us?
Yeah, I'm not sure there. I'm not sure really. I have to give this a little bit of thought.
Okay. So in the meantime,
What? Yes,
if Steve and Nuria want to answer, we can also listen to them for that. So,
yes, please.
yeah.
Wow, you gave us the top one. So the question is,
So, what does death mean for us? What is death for us? Why are we obsessed with death? Why do we think of that? For example, let me tell you something. One of my favorite shows is 6 Feet Under. So, it takes place in a house. There's a family, and people die every episode. And they showed us the story of each people who died, what happened before they died. And that was my favorite TV series ever. So, it was so intense. And in its series finale, like it was like 5 a.m. in the morning, and I said like, okay, so I can watch that so that I will finish it. So it finished, and I cried for half an hour, like sobbing and screaming, so that like I covered my mouth so that my parents won't wake up. So that was so intense, death. So it is kind of the topic that touches us in a way. Yeah, I'm asking that.
Can I ask just, sorry, but I relate to this question also from a broader sense here, because when I hear you speak, Matt, I relate more to like the physical death from that perspective. And I think now I can relate because I tend to be more obsessed, if you want to say, with like symbolic death. And that
Yeah,
could also be something.
yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah, it can also.
let's hear what you have to say before I step in.
Yeah, Steve?
So sorry I missed the first bit of this. I had work, so I don't know if you did
No
introductions
problem.
already. I don't coach. I don't have the astrological knowledge that you both have, but I have studied it since high school on my own. So I am a Scorpio moon as well as a Scorpio Venus. And my Scorpio moon squares Mars in Leo at my ascendant. So I have this whole Leo thing going on too. But we'll stick with Scorpio now. So on your question of death, I have studied shamanism for 10 years. I've come very late to everything. The last 10 years, I'm 61 now, but the last 10 years, ever since 2012, really, the year of ascension or whatever, that was a big year. I tumbled into shamanism. I've been studying that and Reiki. And part of my shamanic training is I did a death doulaing course and I quite enjoyed it. So I got some very deep work in that. I do psychopomp or helping the souls cross over. So I just do it with friends and relatives so far. But yeah, I've thought of death since the beginning, and in the sense of what happens when I die. What am I here for? Like, what is life? Because death is part of life. So I do dwell on death a lot.
Yeah,
And what you have said so far really speaks to me. I'm going through all these same issues. I won't review them. But I have all those that Frida mentioned. I'm just like, wow, very enlightening. And I think that very deep analysis for me, always goes back to why am I here? What happens when I die? Like, what is my brief time? What happens when I interact with people and then I never see them again? So there's all that sense of finality that I feel around death. So yeah, I think about it a lot, not obsessively. I don't obsess about it, but it's always there in the background around the question of why am I here and what can I do for people? Like most people just ignore it and society ignores death. This society in the West,
yeah.
other societies don't. But yeah, anyway, that's it.
That's perfect. And what you said reminded me of this sentence. So everyone wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So I think that's our quest. So the death, what happens? Like, what does that mean? What does life mean? And physical death. And my question for you is that, like, when you deal with that shamanic work or that related practices, what type of feelings do you feel? Like, what type of feelings do they evoke in you?
When I'm working with this
Yeah,
psychopomp, for
yeah.
example, I'm working right now deeply on how to connect because I've got to push away all those emotions that were already discussed to get into this, what I call it, into flow. So when I can manage to get rid of my busy thoughts and get into that place of flow, whether it be Reiki, whether it be working in this space, the Nagual space where I can work with where I can communicate with the dead people, the feeling has to go away. So when you ask, how do I feel? Really, it's a sense of my feelings are gone. I'm there. I'm connecting. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I'm not feeling sorry for them. I'm in a space of calm and connectedness. And that's actually a beautiful feeling, if I want to use that word, because I'm away from the regular hauntings that I have with him
Mhm.
are really still intense. So in short, it feels really good because I'm outside of the space of I'm in flow.
Exactly. So you are in flow. So that's actually reminded me of the feelings that I do when I do readings or teach. So I feel connected. I'm in the flow. So I think Frida as well. So that space means that mystical space means so much for us. Maybe more than that, the mysticism. Yeah.
Yeah, and I relate to when you spoke, Steve. I also think about you said death is overlooked. I that's what I made of it. Like it's a bit overlooked, or we tend to not think about it as so important in our society, right? But then that makes me think about subjects that are more taboo, right? Taboo subjects. And death could be one subject that is taboo in today's society. We should not see dead people. We should not touch that. We should not talk about them. We really should not, like, you know what I mean, like interact in that sense because they are dead, right? And that's the whole idea that society drives. And
Well, we could go into conspiracy theories about why that is, but we won't.
yeah,
Sure.
definitely, definitely. And I think it's so interesting how when I hear you speak, I think about symbolic death, and I've been drawn to that, and
Mm.
taboo subjects a lot, and traumatic experiences. And I've always been so drawn to people who, let's say, for example, have lived rough lives, you say, rough lives, and I don't know, they have been on the streets, and then somehow one day they just pick themselves up and they do something.
Mm.
Like I've been so drawn to those kind of stories, and
What
yeah,
happened?
yeah,
How did
it's
that?
it's so interesting to hear about or read about, and I even find the darkest stories about those kind of yeah, people are so intriguing, and so powerful. And just to take an example also today, when it comes to what is overlooked in society, as a Scorpio moon, today I was outside here in Sweden where I live, and yeah, there's an area around here where there are quite a lot of homeless people.
Yes.
And I went out running. I have a long run. And then when I returned around 2 hours later, well, first I saw a man that was sitting in a very strange position, like very stiff. And my first instinct was, oh, I think he's maybe dead. I was got super scared. But then I tried to call, and, they said, no, it's probably fine. A lot of people are out there. It's okay. And then I returned 2.5 hours later, and I saw him sitting in the same position. And then I was just like, no, how can people not see these things? I was so baffled, like, because we have a person here who is in a really yeah, severe situation, right? And I am the one to call because I tend to see it, or I tend to respond to it, because most people in our society, they are very trained to look the other way, right? They're trained to, oh, let's not talk about that, or let's not look about that, let's sweep that under the rug. But as a Scorpio moon, I think we have an inclination towards, like, no, this is not right, or this is taboo, let's talk about it, or let's honor death, or let's help this person here. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ambulance ended up coming, so everything went well, but like I reflected upon it a lot. How does it come that I was the only one, despite so many people walking past there? Yeah.
That's interesting. That reminds me, before I came on, I was looking through the charts of some of my friends, and I have a friend who's a Scorpio moon and also a Scorpio sun. She's very difficult. Um, very few people want to deal with her, but I'm there dealing with her. I kind of deal with people who are difficult, I suppose. But she's got that very strong sense of if animals are in pain, she just can't take it. With her, it's animals, so dogs and cats and squirrels and even the pigeons. And she's just got that intense sense. And when you mentioned that, I thought of her, and now I understand her better, why she has that intense um feeling towards suffering. And I realize I also have that. Yeah. And I'm from Canada. We also have the same homelessness issue here. And yeah, I walk by and I worry about the people, but I agree, everyone is trained to just ignore it. It's really sad.
Yeah. No, that is one of the things that make me sad as well. Like I can't help thinking about what happened, like why uh like they are there and how can I help them, how can people see them, and how can people talk about it, how can people not ignore it. So yeah, you were so on point about that, about taboo issues, like looking into things that society ignores, society finds dirty, or this can also include sex workers, or I don't know, this we will talk about sexuality as well. So this can, I don't know, it can indicate drug addicts who were kind of forced to get addicted. And this can indicate child workers, for example, who work on the street. So all types of taboo issues that we don't want to see, like Scorpio moons, I believe, just see directly into it. Okay, so that's taboo. So to taboo, I will also go into relationships, and that will also include sex, which is another taboo in society. So first, let's talk about relationships. So this time again, I will ask all of you. So it will be a deep topic. Um, so for relationships, first, what do we need? It is intensity, okay? So what makes us go into a relationship? So that will also be a clue for people who are into Scorpio moons. So what makes us go into a relationship? What makes us stay in a relationship? What makes us say goodbye? Anybody who wants to talk?
I
Nuria,
can
start.
talk.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's difficult because there is this word combination of never forgiving or forgetting, both of them actually, and the fixed energy or having difficulties to ending things. Because I've been in relationship for like 7 years, and I was cheated on the first. So I would never ever forget that. And I was struggling with myself because I was being unloyal to my energy, to my feelings, but I was unable to kill the relationships, let's say. And I don't know, it is difficult.
Yeah, exactly. The first thing will be cheating and lying. That will can make us say goodbye at one point, especially if it happens repeatedly, like a habit. So, but at the same time, like it is so, I think, so difficult to lie to us, as people say. So, kind of secret come to us, or we sense them, or like like they can come to us randomly overall, like some secrets of things or places or people. So that will be a good point. Lies and cheats or secrets.
We need to trust, I think.
Yeah, we need to trust.
It's difficult. Now I'm starting a new things and I trying to control myself because at the beginning I started to ask maybe too many photos. Where are you? What are you doing? And my mom says, but if he's with a girl, he can just push her out of the photo and that's it. My mom is Sagittarius on a Monash, so she's much more practical than me. And I was, you're right, mommy.
Yeah.
So stop with the photos thing. You know, yeah, because
Yeah, and like how do we respond to that if that happens? Like again, how do we self-care? How do we self-nurture in those situations? Because I mean, if we don't dare to feel, if we don't dare to go into relationships, then we will miss out, right? And if we become too controlling or too concerned about what is going to happen, then we also miss out because then we are not living in the moment or enjoying ourselves. But I think about I think about Beyonce, the singer, because she went through this. Yeah, her husband was unfaithful, right? I guess a couple of years ago, and I mean, she created a whole album about it. She created so much art, and even the now when she released the last country album, right, the Jolene song, she changed the lyrics to make them even more. How can you say a little bit harder, right? A little bit tougher. So there we have that aspect of like destruction. I'm going to destroy whoever tries to take away my peace or my stability, or you know what I mean. So we have to be mindful there. I mean, yeah.
But I hear in relationships that we're talking about that, as you mentioned before, that the moon is at its best in Taurus, and here it's like the opposite. I do like the way we feel. I like 100% connections. I like it. I mean, it's my love language, so I like how we do it. I understand others. My best friend is Gemini, so she said, couldn't but okay, but you on your side of the bed and me in mine. For me, being cuddled the whole night is perfect. It's such a plan. So I love the way I don't think the moon is not at, it's just, I mean, a language love, just different.
Yeah, it's a different expression. We just have to, like all moon signs, we have to handle it, right? We have to live and make the most out of it. But one thing that comes to my mind as well in terms of relationships is I tend to like also people who are reserved. I like when people are reserved. And that's really a thing. And that sounds a bit, I've been conflicted about this because my sun is in Taurus, conjunct Venus, in the third house. So I'm very chatty, I'm very social on the external part, and Sagittarius ascendant as well. But like when I met my husband, I met him in the streets of Amsterdam, and we just kind of like walked past each other, and then we were like, oh, love started talking, and now we are married, have 2 kids and everything. But what struck me when I first saw him that day was, I like that he's reserved. I like that he has this laid back vibe, because what I have struggled a lot with when I grew up, and maybe this is a Scorpio moon thing, it's intimacy in that sense, when it's like imposed by somebody else, and maybe there also comes the aspect of control, loss of control, privacy, and what we talked about, us being very deep but very stable on the outside. I've heard so many countless times when I grew up, oh, but Frida, she's super reserved. She's so reserved. She's so private. She's so reserved. And I was also always wondering, what do they mean? I'm not reserved. But now I see it. Like as time has passed, I do see it. And I think it's a Scorpio thing. Because if my husband, if that day, if he would have been very like, very, I would say, have come on to me in a more, how to say, in a way that was a little bit more imposed like that, then I think I would not have been so interested.
Mm.
That's the truth. I need the reservedness. Yeah.
Exactly. So once a friend of mine told me that she found 2 words that perfectly describe me. One of them was reserved, and one of them was refined. So it is something also important to us. And at the same time, I personally as well, when I even observe people getting too friendly, too close, like in short minutes, like in 20 minutes, in an hour, or a couple of days, I find that a bit suspicious and superficial. So that is also something that makes me question. So how can someone be so close, like in a day? They just met, they didn't know each other last week. So I kind of also question these things. Yes. And I think another theme will be superficiality and insincerity. So 2 things, fake like expressions, fake words, fake emotions that can also drive us away from a friendship or relationship, I believe. So in relationships as well, of course, Moon is also about relationships, how we feel comfortable in relationship and intimate relationship. And it also comes to sex. So sexuality, sex, and Scorpio Moon. So what is the meaning? What's the meaning of it for us? So as Scorpio is known to be the most sexual sign. You can all answer.
I think just as there is a need to investigate and research and go to the bottom of things, I think sexuality is for most people a human need, right? And I think for a Scorpio moon, there we have also the layer of intensity and very much the intimacy, I think. But here we have to, I have to remember that okay, just as we can become very black and white, we can push people away, we can become super close. We always have that kind of dance with black and white or dichotomies, right? We have to remember that that can also apply to sexuality. It could apply to sexuality. It could be that a person with the Scorpio moon could even be like a sex addict from my point of view, but that the sex could be a way, for example, to I don't know, try to feel safe or try to feel, how do you say, recognized, or like I get the attention or I'm being accepted through this sexual act, right? But on the other hand, if we move to the other spectrum, it could be really, really intimate and really profound and very, very deep. And I would even say healing to some extent, like this intimacy where you can completely trust in another person. Because that is one aspect with the Scorpio moon, right? That we can struggle with feeling safe. We can struggle with that a lot. So when we are in the most intimate setting with another person, then like in order to really enjoy sex that way, there's like a prerequisite that we need to feel safe. You know what I mean? And maybe by if people use sex more of like yeah, like have sex, like to feel recognized or feel valued. That could be sort of also a way to protect oneself from exposing oneself to the possibility of not feeling safe. You know what I mean? Like we protect ourselves. So I'm just having casual sex so that I don't have to see how it is for me to open up completely. You know, I've been there with myself, so I know a lot of Scorpio moons can struggle with this. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. And also for safety, I also want to add something. Recently, I read that like human beings are most vulnerable when they are having orgasms. So it's our kind of we let go, like we kind of lose our control. So if something happens at that exact moment, we might not be able to protect ourselves. So we kind of let go in that moment for a few seconds. So that's also related to trust of Scorpio moon. So with maybe casual sex without feelings. So there is still the need to control, and as you said, but maybe when you completely connect, it will be transformative and healing, as you said again. Okay. So Steve and Nuria, would you like to add anything on this?
I will. I have only recently, like this year, come to terms with sexuality in a way that it no longer bothers me because long story short, I had a lot of fear of missing out about it. As a gay person, it's expected that we do a lot more than I did. But and then I was always comparing and so on. So I realized only recently that it's not about FOMO, it's not about other people's experiences and comparing it to mine. It's about my own personal experience. And along the same time, earlier this year, I have performed burlesque. Leo Ascended, remember? I have performed burlesque. So I took a burlesque course about self-love and self-acceptance, and that was actually really powerful for me. I was the only guy. Most things I'm involved with, I'm the only guy, but it taught me just to love myself in ways that I don't know why I didn't realize that before. It was pretty obvious, but I realized in sexuality, you have to love yourself first, and then it's not about the other people, it's about self-love. And that was my learning this year. And now I actually don't have issues about sex anymore, any of those issues. But I've had it for intimacy, intensity, all of the things that Frida listed, they're all part of the sexual experience. And I guess I'm lucky I've experienced a lot of those.
Yeah, perfect. So I resonate with you as well. I also have Leo Sun, Scorpio Moon, so I'm going through that Leo Scorpio dichotomy as well. That exactly. So Nuria, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, that was well, I also am a Leo sun, but
Uh-huh.
I got this beautiful thing here with the rising moon, Pluto,
Uh-huh.
and
Oh,
Scorpio. Yes, ouch, yes. So, well, I was thinking about my childhood as you were talking about sex, because I remember as I was a child, my parents used to watch films at night, and when it came to sex scene, they used to cover my eyes as I couldn't see it. And it's still in here. I remember myself like getting with the masturbation things, and very, very child. I mean, as a child, as a little girl, and also with that scene, they allowed me to see them, but they was all night like this, like death. Oh my gosh, does it exist? I think it's about my rising, maybe, that I'm not into. It's something that calls my attention, but reaction, because yeah, so I don't know. Sometimes I get into conflict between my moon and my rising. And I was listening to you and thinking about all these things coming through my emotional world, but also about my life lessons with the rising. And I still don't speak with my parents about sex, about boyfriend. It's very difficult to tell them that I have a boyfriend. I am trying to get pregnant now, and I don't know how to tell them, because I mean they will know how it happens. Even private.
Exactly. Perfect.
And I
Okay.
also relate to that, like it's not a subject that was brought out in the open during the upbringing. I really relate to that. And that's again, maybe us with Scorpio moon, we can also try to transform and redo things. Because, for example, with my kids, I try to be quite open with them, because I know how it was for me growing up, that I felt like I couldn't say anything to my mother. Like that was my subjective experience. Maybe I could have said anything if I think about it now, of course, but I didn't. And there was something that made me not talk about it. And so with my kids, I really try to be open. I try to, yeah, even if they are small, I try to just normalize it as much as I can. Yeah. And I think there we're back to the black and white. Like, okay, my upbringing was, the lid was on, like as for many of us. Maybe then when we are parents or when we talk to others, maybe we take the lid completely off. You know what I mean? Like, could be that that way of expressing ourselves.
Yeah.
I have a I have a
Yeah.
question on this. As a teenager, I was so repressed. First of all, I was aware of my sexuality in a time when it wasn't to be allowed. And then by the time I got to university, AIDS came along and I wasn't about to go there. There was huge fear around that. So but I was so repressed as a teenager, and it wasn't my parents. It was so bad that I wouldn't show myself naked to them. Like I would go behind a door. And my mother keeps mentioning that to me. And now I try to do burlesque. So I've become the opposite. I'm trying to make up for that. But I'm just wondering, I don't think it was my parents who did that. That was internal, that I was so locked down. And I'm just wondering for the rest of you, was it your parents you were afraid of? Or you were afraid of telling your parents, but was that because they might have reacted badly, or was that just because inside you were so worried, like it just was a subject that you couldn't deal with inside?
I think for me, it was something inside of me more than my parents, actually. I think that's the case. Yeah, because in Sweden also, I grew up in several countries outside of Sweden, but we are Swedish in my family. And generally, the culture in Sweden is quite open in that sense. You know, kids can see their parents naked, it's no big deal. You know, we don't have those strict religious views either in this country. So, but I think it was something more internal in me, and I even think about it now that I did not even tell my mother. I don't even think I told my mother when I had my period the first time. That's an example, because I didn't want to talk about it. Like, no, this is not for anybody else to know. This is only for me to know, you know, and so many secrets, so much under the surface. And it was exhausting. Now, when I look back, it was exhausting to hide so many things that are completely natural, completely normal in that sense from the people who are supposed to be close to me, my parents. And I think, like I say, we have to be mindful of this, because it can transfer into our adult lives, this kind of secret keeping, or no, I'm not going to talk to anybody. Like, now, me even saying this about my upbringing, my period, I have never said this to anybody before now. You know what I mean? So it's about trying to, like you said, you're doing burlesque. Yeah, we can open, we can transform, we can feel more safe, but we gotta try, right? We gotta try, and I gotta try to say these things. You are doing burlesque. We're all doing what we can to evolve, Scorpio.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you for
I
that.
also think that it comes from my within. And also for my mother, it comes from her within. She also has Scorpio moon. So at the same time, like sex was kind of a taboo, as Nuria said. Like she used to cover our eyes, and even though like she had 6 children, like it's like sex does not exist in the world. So it's still kind of a taboo for her. So she doesn't like to talk about it. She is 71. But for me, my dad was kind of more open on it. So he was a pharmacist, so he was more concerned about the health. So that's why he was more willing to talk about it. But for Scorpio perspective, it's yeah, still we have that taboo side of sex. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think we naturally dived into the theme of motherhood. So now let's talk about it finally. Motherhood, parenthood, Scorpio moon child. So I'm a Scorpio moon myself. My mom also has Scorpio moon. So I cannot hold myself this time. So I won't ask. I will just directly share my own information, own idea about it. So I think Scorpio is also connected to crisis, deep feelings, intensity. So when we have Scorpio moon or even Scorpio moon mothers, so there might be sometimes some type of rigidity, like not sharing boundaries, borders, but at the same time sharing crisis too much. So you don't kind of share the feelings that you are supposed to share, but you talk about your problems, what you went through, like your struggles in your earlier life to a child that who is not ready to hear that. So like he or she is still a child. So what do you think about this, like Scorpio moon and the mothers?
I agree. And it's interesting to hear you, Matt, that your mother also has a Scorpio moon,
Yes.
because that's the case for me as well, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that we do share a lot of crisis in that sense. And it has taken me so many years, I have to say, so many years to come to terms with the fact that the relationship I have to my mother is different than the stereotypical relationship that many people have to the mother. Like a lot of friends of mine, oh, my mother is, they have this more of like a Cancerian archetype, you know what I mean? Like a Cancerian archetype, when they get kids, the grandmother is there doing everything for them, you know what I mean? My mother is not like that. My mother and I, we have struggled a lot, and it's been a lot about, yes, I don't know, it's been about control, a lot about control, about her issues, like you say, maybe a little bit putting them on my shoulders. And it's been this kind of a little bit destructive, I would say, relationship. But the way I have worked with this and the way I have tried to heal this, or actually heal this, is just through acceptance, by coming to terms with the fact that, wait, my mother is not me. Again, it's easy to feel like we are the same person. My mother is a separate person. She's an individual, and I am her child, but I am my own. So that doesn't mean that whatever happened to her or whatever she did is what I'm going to do, because we can also fall into that kind of conspiracy and be a little bit paranoid about, oh, what's going to happen to me if this was how my mother dealt with things. So really separating us two, and also actually, just as I have had to choose sometimes what information I allow in, I've also had to redefine my relationship to my mom, and had to also redefine what information do I let in from my mother. An example, my mother can sometimes come to my house. She can see a garbage bag maybe in the kitchen. My brother will come over, we're going to have a family gathering. And there was one time my mother came early and she saw the garbage bag and she said, there's a garbage bag in the kitchen that you need to bring out. And I said, yeah, there's a garbage bag, but it doesn't matter because it's just my brother who's coming. It's not like the king. And then she said, take it out now. You take it downstairs now. And I just was like this. No, I'm not doing it. I will take it later. And that was really interesting because that was like, it mirrored our whole relationship, like 30 years of relationship. Because that day when we met with the family, my mother got so upset by that, that she didn't look at me for like 3 hours. She looked all the other way when we had coffee and talking and dinner, everything. She didn't talk to me. She looked the other way because I said, "No, mom, I'm not bringing out the garbage today." You know what I mean? Like there I have to remember, wait, this is not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong because I am over 30 years old. I have my own house. A garbage bag can be in the kitchen. I don't have to run downstairs and throw it away right now. So, you know, those kind of examples. And we can laugh about it now. That's why I'm talking about it. And I have a very like warm feeling about it because it's the intense relationship. But I think it's important to understand that that's an example of intense and intense relationship with a flavor of control involved. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I will also just add something, and then I will ask Steve and Nuria. So when we look at the archetype of Pluto, Hades, so she abducted Persephone, like in mythology. So then we also had the mother archetype, Ceres. So she lost her child. So I think that control is also connected to fear of loss, fear of abduction. Someone will take my child away. My child will care about someone more than me. So that control, I think, goes with the fear of loss. So that's also my theory, I believe. Yeah, Steve and Nuria, what would you like to say about motherhood, mother and Scorpio moon and the mother?
As I said, mine has got the Sagittarius, is Sagittarius, and rising Gemini. So as a child, I didn't connect at all. And in my teenagerhood, she was my worst enemy, but she didn't do anything to me really. And I was not a conflicted teenager. It's just she needed communication, and everything was so simple and positive for her, and I was just the opposite, hidden stuff, and she used to read my letters from my friends, and I was crazy about that when she opened my wardrobe and searched into my things to get information for her teenager daughter. It's pretty normal, I understand now, but she was my worst enemy in that moment. But so I felt I had no connection with her. Nevertheless, there was another lady who raised me up. She was a single sister of my grandmother, and because my parents worked, she was in charge of me as a child. And the typical question you make to the children, who do you love the most, mommy or daddy? I always used to say this lady, as I consider her my mom. She was a Scorpion, and she died, and I mean, when I was 8. And I think it's also connected with the Scorpion moon and mom is the thing of the death, because I still remember it every single day. I got photos of her everywhere. I was in 1998. I mean, quite a lot, but still fixed to this Scorpion lady that never stopped holding my hand and taking me to the school every day. It was like more connected to my way of loving, much more than my super Sagittarius mommy.
Okay, I see. So at least like it's a mother figure as well. So for the viewers, it doesn't have to be mother. It can also be grandmother or mother figure like you. So this can be the case. Yeah. Thank you, Nuria. And Steve, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I have a very intense relationship with my mother, and she's still alive. She's 88 now, and I go back and forth a lot. I'm in the city, she's 3 hours away, and I've been dividing my time there. And this really strikes me. Yeah, she tried to control me, but I'm a bit too strong. I think she's a Cancer moon. We don't know her birth time, but I think it would track that she's a Cancer moon. And now I just realized that this morning in reviewing her chart. I wondered what her moon was. So I'm now thinking I've had a very intense relationship with other Cancers. I'm a Capricorn sun. So Capricorn Cancer, that axis is very intense for me. So now I'm wondering if that had something to do with it. But I think this my Scorpio moon, yeah, a very intense relationship with her, and her mother, my grandmother. There was also a very intense relationship there. So I need to take this as food for thought because I never associated Scorpio moon with this motherhood thing. So I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, good to hear that. Yeah.
Can I share also there that because it's easy to when you read about Scorpio moon online or in books, I mean the intense aspect is emphasized, and sometimes it's even emphasized to the point of like, oh, terrible, you know, a crazy relationship with mom, or traumatic and bad, you know, that we spiral into that kind of understanding of Scorpio moon. And I just would like to say that, again, that's why I think it's great that we use the word intense, because that's more neutral in that sense. And there can be huge transformation and huge growth from an intense relationship with the mother archetype. For example, there can also be positive expressions of that, because if something would happen to me, let's say I have a crazy neighbor downstairs who has threatened me, and you know, all these kind of things. And if I tell my mother about these things, she will go to the very extremes to protect me for that, you know. Or if I would have, I don't know, financial trouble, whatever it could be, I know that my mother would go to the end of the world to kind of like destroy whoever tried to destroy me. But it's just that when there is no outside enemy in that sense, then our relationship has been very flavored with this kind of, then we can become enemies, you know. But as soon as there is a third part who is the actual enemy, then we're great. You know what I mean by that? It's very interesting dynamic that can grow from a Scorpio moon relationship to a mother.
The scorpion claws always have to be out somewhere.
Yeah. And I try myself to be very mindful about this, because yeah, like I'm together with a double Gemini with a Virgo moon, and he's way more logical, of course, than me in that sense. And with our kids, I try to be very supportive of my kids, be there. I want to know stuff about what's happening, but I'm trying to not overstep the boundaries there. I'm trying to remember that, but wait, they need to be their own individuals. They need to try stuff. They need to make mistakes. They need to explore. I cannot limit every experience in their life. For example, when I grew up as a child, I was never allowed to color my hair. Never, ever. My mother was obsessed with that. She was like, you are never allowed to color your hair. And all my friends were doing whatever they wanted. And I have Uranus conjunct my ascendant. So come on. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like this expression of individuality, it was suppressed immensely in me. So what happens then if, I mean, the energy is going to go somewhere. So what happened? Yeah, when I was 18, I went to Latin America. I do all kinds of crazy things, right? We have to remember this, that control, yeah, let control flow through you rather than try to hold on to it. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. So the third party enemy part is pretty accurate. And also, I think there is, again, this invasion of privacy, as you mentioned, because I remember like one time I was 18 and in high school, and I came home, my parents' faces were so white, and they told me that like my cousin became a drug addict. So I said, okay, I'm so sad. And then I went home. Then for a couple of days, I noticed that the things in my room were changing their space. Like there were some changes in my room. So then I walked on them, like looking into my bag. So I was so mad. So it was the first time that I was so mad at my parents. So they were searching for drugs in my bag. So yeah, that is one thing. And then yeah, then again we go to the control. Also, I remembered. So we set intensity, horrible relationship with the mother on the internet that we can see. And I also think that that intensity might also be related to the actual childbirth. So I often have Scorpio moon people whose mothers were going through something intense or difficult, or death when she was pregnant or when she was giving birth. For example, in my birth, I almost died. I was born. 2 days later, I was supposed to be born. So then at the childbirth, I was suffocated. And then it was a kind of emergency C-section so that they saved me. So then my mother had the fear that she would lose me. I will die, like as a baby. So that also, I think, continues when you have a trauma at birth, when you are giving birth. This trauma continues in the adulthood that she will lose her child, so that she should protect. She should like fight at the third parties and so on. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, I have to say, because it was the same when I was born. But the story is that my mother was, she always describes it as a horrible birth. And for me, it took many years to accept this for me. Because I mean, as a child also, if we think about yeah, you take on a lot of, we talked about take on the mother's problems, right? You can also somehow feel a little bit like a scapegoat, or you feel like the black sheep or whatever, oh, I'm the baby that caused my mother to have such a horrible experience. You know what I mean? And you carry that upon you, and that influences the relationship you have to your mom. And it was actually recently that I healed that in myself, because I have two kids myself, and I've had great, great births. And I just realized that, wait a minute, my mother has a huge need of control. I have worked on that theme. I can let go of control. That's why my births were quite easy. And I can see now that it was not my mother's fault. It was also not my fault that her birth was so horrible. It was like more, I look at it from a systemic perspective. Yeah, the hospital, how they used to function, how they treated a woman and stuff like that. And I try to see it from the transformative lens, like, okay, great that I am in another place with myself and we have better healthcare now, but I don't put any blame on my mother, and I don't feel like she puts blame on me. But losing children and feeling very attached, I do have that story as well as a Scorpio moon, because I have one child who is now almost 6, and my other child is roughly 1.5. And in between those two children, I had like 3 miscarriages. So I know also that process, like I have experienced it from another lens. Maybe if my mother almost lost me during childbirth, yeah, but I have lost like through miscarriages. So of course, my daughter, who is that child that came after the miscarriages, there's another what is the influence impacting our relationship. And I try to there be very mindful that I don't restrict, because she is a Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Venus, MC, and like she has Sun trine Jupiter in Pisces. She's very, and Aquarius rising. So I'm like, I'm not going to control this child. I can't. So, it's a lot about, again, we have the capacity to dig up dirt and look at it from another perspective. And sometimes I think that's our task, rather than taking on the kind of scapegoat role or the taboo role, or I think that's important to remember. Just like you, Steve, you mentioned like the burlesque and what you're doing. That's hugely transformative also, not only for you, but for people around you as well. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Okay. So, yeah, overall, yeah, as we can say that the relationship with the mother does not have to be horrible. Maybe it is really connected, really intense. For example, I can call my relationship with my mom pretty fun, actually. She also has Aquarius sun, I have Leo sun. So we have that opposition, but we have this fun energy as well. So we have good time together too. So although there are some intensities, yes. Okay, so then I want to skip into the theme that for parents who have Scorpio moon children, so how can they be better children for their Scorpio moon children?
Yeah, like I said before, I think it's very important that I will transfer darkness to my kids. I know, because all people somehow do, but I think it's important that I try to limit that impact. That's it. That's how I try to choose the middle way. And that comes with, for example, how do I regulate my emotions? Do I take responsibility for my need to rest? That's been another question, because something that I've seen in the relationship with my mother and I is that Yeah, she also has her sun conjunct Mars, so she's a very powerful, powerful lady. She works a lot and she very goes on a lot. But I mean, you can easily overstep your own boundaries and your own need to rest. And since we are so receptive, I think we need to take time for ourselves. I need to take time for myself to balance myself so that I don't fall into destructive behaviors. Because I think destructive behaviors is something that we could be prone to. And here I would like to highlight it could be managing emotions through drinking, could be through drugs, could be, like we said, through sex, could be shutting down, shutting people out. It could be all these kind of different facets. And that's why I say try to see the emotions, feel the emotions, and take the necessary alone time, actually. Alone time. I think it's super important. Yeah, so we have the right capacity to be good parents.
Yeah, so allowing the child to have alone time and offering privacy, respecting privacy. So that will be important. And Steve and Nuria, what would you like to add, if there is anything?
Or rising properly and Scorpio moon. I would suggest to create a kind of dynamic with them to think of positive things that had happened, because imagine they got a birthday party and there is one friend that is out absent. They will focus on the one who didn't come rather than on those who got to do it. So okay, give me 3 positive things about your birthday. What were the 3 things that you liked the most? So try to go out of the negativity, out of the black side that we usually focus on. And time apart, I think, is absolutely necessary, because we have to die to as the phoenix to rebirth, and there is nothing wrong with that. I learned to that I need my time. Now I wasn't paid by my company and I have been crying 2 days, and that's okay for me. I know that the 3rd day I will be okay, but I need to be 2 days crying. I take the days for myself, and that's it. So if they need to be sad,
Yeah, exactly.
And you
Exactly.
know that it's not a weakness to cry.
no,
Yes.
it's good
Because we
actually.
can get programmed like that. Oh, it's a weakness, or we're showing weakness if we cry or show our emotions. But like you say, you can allow yourself that as an adult. So maybe also that's something we can try to teach the kids, that it's fine. You know, you're safe to
Actually,
show
it's
yourself.
positive for us, I think, because the way the water we have is not the one that cries the most. I remember last year I was in a camp, and the trainer asked us to draw ourselves in a big piece of paper as an element of a forest that we got represented by, and I drew myself as a quicksand. I saw that I was quicksand. I'm water. I'm here. I'm looking at everyone. You will not notice me, but I'm protecting everyone from the dark side, from the corner. And so the water we have is difficult to go with the flow. So if we got to cry, let them cry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let it out.
Yeah, you know.
Exactly. Okay. Steve, would you like to add anything?
I think I'm good. I don't have kids,
Yeah.
so I've just been,
Okay.
but I was, other than I was taking some notes here, which I do, and research. And I was just thinking this is not only applicable to children in our lives, but it would be also applicable to friends
Mm-hmm.
and people close to us and everyone. All these rules are good. Or if I'm imagining, if you're a coach, these are also good rules to apply when you're coaching people. So
Exactly. So that will be relevant in all intimate relationships or connections. Okay, so I'm done with my um, outline. So now I want to ask Steve and Nuria again. So about your notes, your things that you would like to add, things that you would like to comment on. You can share anything related to you, your stories, or introduce yourselves. So we missed the intro session. So yeah, it's now your turn completely.
may I go soon? Because I've got to get back to work soon because
Okay.
this is my lunch break.
Oh,
I don't know that I have much to add other than this has been really helpful for me. I've taken lots of notes. I would say that my job is a technical writer at a software company, and I
uh-huh.
realize it's very applicable to this because My role is to ask questions. How would that work? And I'm always finding problems with it and going, this isn't working. And how will they understand this? And then I speak for the user. So I put myself outside of that, outside of myself and go, this is not going to work. So I'm always, how does this work? And it seems to serve me very well in this role. I'd like to do more. I'd like to do more deep research, but I do realize that writing is kind of my thing and coaching. So I'm still trying to find myself at 61. Um,
And but
everything,
I thought that you were 50 by the way. No. Yeah.
um, everything spoke to me. And by the way, so the Scorpio, I also am Scorpio Neptune, because that's my generation. And I also have Uranus Pluto conjunction in my first house, the 60s age of Aquarius Virgo thing, which I deal with. Yeah, I won't get into my chart in detail, but other than to say that Scorpio is at the bottom of my chart, it's at my IC. Venus is right at my IC, so Uranus just passed my midheaven, and there've been huge changes related to that. But the moon was always sitting out there, and this has really given me some good background on why I'm so intense. And I've been doing a lot of work around what's holding me back. So this is really good. I think I can blame the Scorpio moon now.
Yeah.
But there, can I also say, because when you say what's holding me back, just a reflection from my life is that I spent a lot of years thinking about what is holding me back, because
Mm.
I used to compare myself to other people, you know, in terms of, oh, everyone is so social. I am also social, but I'm not social in that sense, you know. I need a lot of introvert time for myself. And I used to compare myself so much, like, oh, but wait, why do I feel so awkward in so many situations? Why do I feel like I have to perform when I talk to people? Why do I feel like I have to keep up appearances? You know, this kind of masks going on. Yeah, and then I just like recently, because I have a friend of mine who's a Pisces and also a Scorpio moon, and we both have Pluto very close to our moons as well, both of us. So we have just accepted that, you know what? We are social, we are great, but we don't like to hang out all the time. You know,
Mhm.
come to the
Mhm.
fact that I need to, like, today I've been at home the whole day. I haven't talked to anyone. You are guys are the first people I like connect with like this face to face, and I feel great because I needed that today. And in society, again, it's seen as a little bit taboo, a little bit like something that is wrong with people if they're not out and about all the time. But that's why I say the introvert side, like the more private side, we have to honor that. I really believe we should honor that and say to ourselves, there's nothing wrong with me. I just need a lot of this introvert energy to like, because I'm like a sponge. I soak up everything. I have to kind of empty my sponge and then feel, okay, where am I with myself?
Yeah.
That all speaks to me so
Yeah.
much. And I've been doing that. And I'm at the point where I think like individuation is what I'm working on now. How am I distinct from other people? And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, be it spiritual or be it astrology. And I do think there's something in the air right now, a big shift. And every like what you're going through and what you're coming to is what I'm also coming to. So I'm just realizing I don't have to be like other people. I can work on myself. I can do my own self-expression. All my life, I had all these rules that I followed. And it's really weird that at this time, when I'm relatively older than everyone, I can suddenly look at all this. So I think it's the time we're in
Yeah.
more than just my own individual. Oh my God, after 61 years, I finally figured this out. I finally figured so much out. So I'm also realizing my mother and other people around me are also shifting. So I think there's a big shift on.
Yeah, and you said you have Pluto Uranus conjunction in the first house.
Yeah, it's 7 degrees apart, but yeah, it's in
Yeah,
my
but
first.
still, I mean, the ruler of your moon is in the first, you can say. So there's a like maybe the
Ah,
emphasis
yes.
on you coming to terms with what you want or how you differ. Uranus in the first is very empowering, Pluto, in terms of your identity. And yeah, can also see it from that point of view, maybe.
And I
Yeah,
also think that you have a forecast moon, Leo rising, Scorpio
that's right.
forecast. So that
Okay.
makes it more introvert, internal, deep, and private. So I have fourth house sun, so I kind of resonate with that. That yeah, there is nothing wrong with being an introvert. So being private, so you don't have to talk all the time. So like this is something that annoys me as well when people tell me in real life, "Oh, you are so quiet, you don't talk, like you are kind of keeping it private. Why are you not talking? Just tell us, just say anything." So why? Like, why exactly? Do I always have to entertain and talk? Okay, I have Leo side too, but I can't always do that. Yeah,
I'm learning
exactly.
the art of listening right now. The art of listening is way. It's funny now when I do blurt out my conspiracy theories or whatever, I get great pushback. So I'm really trying to change my negative thought forms away because I always dwelt on that negative thought form stuff, and I'm releasing that. And it's really funny. The universe just pushing me to get rid of that. So yeah,
And
it's
like
easy.
we can redefine. I always, if I'm in a social setting, when I come home, it starts spiraling, like sort of like a social anxiety almost. Why did I say this? Why did I overshare? But I didn't overshare. But why did I overshare? What did these people actually think? Oh, was he feeling well? Was she, all these like the things going on. And I
You
have
have Virgo, right? You have a lot of Virgo, I think. Yeah.
No, I have a South Node in Virgo in the eighth house.
Okay. Yeah.
uh, but that's that process. I have redefined it as instead of me wondering if I have social anxiety, I've been more like, you know what? This is my process, like the process after I've been in social settings when I empty my sponge. This is what it is. All this like, okay, I'm going through what happened and I'm releasing it, so important to not bring that to bed and then I lie in the night and I think, oh, what happened? Why did I say that? No. But self-acceptance, I guess it all comes down to at the end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you. I'm exactly the same. But
Yeah.
uh, I don't have so much social anxiety though. I think it's that I have Leo ascendant with Moon there, so I've got a lot of Leo too. So maybe that's it. Because I'm right out there, and I love people, but I have a job where I don't deal with people that much. But I have a weird relationship with people because I need that quiet time, and I'm
Mm.
still coming to terms with them. Yeah, I want to be out there, but I don't want to be out there. Am I a hermit or am I a
Yeah.
Mm,
socialite? I know, but now I realize that's just going to be my difference. Like it's both me.
yeah, exactly. Okay. So, yeah, I like Leo Sun Scorpio Moon. I feel that totally on your struggle. Okay, Nuria, would you like to add anything? Anything to add? Anything to share?
Yeah, maybe I wanted to go back to the thing of motherhood and
Yeah.
pregnancy because Frida commented she had two kids. And I wanted to ask her if she has any suggestion or advice because I am in the process of trying to get pregnant. And I think I have an internal conflict because the pregnancy represents a lot of things that are crucial for the moon. I was noting that like losing control of your body, transformation. Also, you're gonna be somebody different in society, your body, your I mean, routines, everything. Your life is gonna change. It's gonna die. And trusting others. I mean, you're gonna be in a hospital, in a bed. You have to trust these people that you have never seen before. And there are a lot of blocks that I think that are blocking my energy to get to the process. I don't know if there is
Hmm.
that can be done for that.
Yeah, I cannot answer too much because I'm not like specialized in this, but I can just speak from my own experience, which is not it's just generally what I experienced. I experienced that when I became pregnant with my second child, I went through a huge process of transformation in regards to my own self-care. That was the theme because it made me reflect upon, okay, wait, if I'm going to bring another child into the world, that means I will care for somebody else, right? But how have I cared for myself to begin with? And I realized that I had neglected a lot of my own needs during my life. yeah, for various reasons. So that was just my story. That was something that was blocking my energy and made me scared. Like, okay, how am I going to take care of a kid if I don't know how to nurture my own needs? And yeah, that was my process. And what I wanted to say also, that there is a book about fertility astrology. I don't know if you're aware of it, but it's by her name is Nicola her name is Nicola Alsop Smuts. Sorry, it's a difficult name. Nicola Alsop Smuts. She has written something about fertility astrology, and she also goes through the moon signs. And this is very in depth because it's like a medieval astrology mixed with modern. So it's interesting to read, and could be something that could spark some thoughts for people. Yeah. She raises questions about what you mentioned with the control aspects and stuff like that. So yeah.
Because my sun is on Lion, but on the 0 degrees. So now I got Pluto like there. I feel like I'm getting transformed in every area in my life. So well, maybe this is one of them also.
Yeah.
Definitely. And questions related to motherhood, right?
Yeah, because
Transformation related to the concept of motherhood. Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. Okay, thank you so much, Frida, for answering her question. So, that's again, the anxiety here might also be blocking, as you said. So it's better to go deep down into that anxiety. So what makes you really anxious regarding motherhood? Okay, so I think this has been the longest session so far. We have broken the record. So the other ones were 40 minutes, 50 minutes, but we have 1 hour and 45 minutes, which is the record and deepest conversation so far. And I'm not surprised. I feel that this was going to happen with you. So now for final remarks, if you want to add anything, we can discuss them, or we can end this beautiful session.
I have to leave soon, but did you get your account back, Matt?
No, not yet. It has been a day. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but Twitter are boarding with it. So Twitter, Reddit, so many people have lost their accounts.
It's
So
just
it's kind of a process, I believe. I think everybody will go through that. So they ask selfies to record, and then you submit the selfie, and they will
good
pop through
luck with
the.
that. I know
Yeah,
from the burlesque world, they're always taking people's accounts away, but that's because they show a bit too much skin.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
It's that.
don't like. I didn't do anything wrong.
Good luck with that. But I have nothing to add. Thank you so much.
Okay,
I've
welcome.
learned so much.
Same for
It's,
me. It's been
it's the
great
right.
talking with you all, and it's I have to say it's very comforting. There should
Yeah,
be sorry. There should be like a Scorpio moon support group
group, exactly,
where we can all
exactly.
just open up and be like, "What's your trauma? How are you
Exactly.
doing
I'm going to reach out to my Scorpio moon friends because I feel I understand them a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Same
Okay.
here.
Yeah. We can always be in touch. I'm here, whenever you need me, you can touch me, you can write me or about anything. It doesn't have to be related to astrology. So yeah, we can keep that support group, Scorpio support group. Okay. So I really enjoyed. Thank you, Frida, again, one more time joining to my channel and doing videos with me. And thank you, Steve, and thank you, Nuria. It wouldn't be possible without you because it will just be two of us. So your ideas, your reflection are what make this session valuable because we had first-hand experience of the people that share that placement. So that's perfect. So thank you so much again, big thanks. And I think this video will get lots of interest and lots of like curiosity from people, Scorpio Moon. So let's end the session. And this is the end of our beautiful panel. So if you want to stay connected, please subscribe to my channel and I will finish Moon Sign series and then I think I will do North Node series in each sign. So that will be also helpful for people's growth and people's life path and soul's growth. So I think that might be pretty beneficial. So that will be the next series. But yeah, see you next time. Take care and goodbye. And this is the end for now.